suit and tie.
I should have, huh?
I should have worn makeup, but I don't have time.
Who needs...
What would you call yourself in terms of your title?
I don't like the word luthiers. I'll just say I'm a guitar guy.
Yeah, okay.
A guitar fixer.
You started your own business when you were how old?
1972, so I was 21.
And how did you get into fixing guitars?
Well, where I lived at the time, nobody else would do it. And so I was buying stuff and I had to learn how to fix it because most of the time they were cheap and they didn't work. So I had to figure out, take them apart and figure out what made them work. At the time there were no books or videos or anything about that.
Right.
So you just had to kind of do it, you know, open one up and hope you could put it back together again. Okay. Pulled the wire off a pickup and said, gee, there's 5,000 feet of wire on here. How do you put it back?
Were you one of those guys that used to pull like legs off spiders and stuff too?
Oh no, I didn't do that. Just wire off pickups. I was working at Orange Pawn Shop, learning that business, but on the weekends I would go out to the swap meets and buy guitars, and the guy that owned the shop and I would partner up on the guitars. I would fix them, then he would hang them up and sell them. We'd split the money. So I had a bench in the back of the shop over in Orange for 6 or 8 months before I went to my barn and opened the shop.
He's got like the longest list of names that I know you would never admit this, but he's pretty freaking famous when it comes to all of these players that he's done guitars for.
There's a lot of guys. I just started meeting people in the 70s. I would sell them guitars first, and then they said, what else should you do? And they'd say, oh, let me send you a fret job. So I'd get a shipment in from UPS. There'd be a guitar from Phil Chen, Rod Stewart's bass player, sent me a bass to refret for him. And then the word got around, so all these English guys started showing up in the States and calling me to have me do work for them. And then Alan Rogan, who is like the super roadie of the world, you know, he works for The Who, and he works for the Stones, he worked for Clapton for years. You know, I'd buy and sell guitars to him for them, and then he would have me do some work on them. Okay, I'd set them up before I'd send them to him. Used to be, you'd get a call, hey, we're at the Forum tonight, what do you got? And I'd take this old yellow Dodge van and back it up to the loading dock, and Alan would come out with his crew and unload 6 or 8 guitars and go backstage.
Wow.
And we'd have the cases open, and then, you know, Pete Townsend and John Entwistle would come over and look at the stuff, and then they'd talk to Alan, and Alan would come over with a wad of cash and just go, here, what's this one and this one and this one.
Like, did you ever get starstruck with anyone?
Probably not, you know, because when you would meet him, it's in a backstage area and it's a, you know, beehive of activity, and everybody's running around doing stuff and it's loud and everything, so you don't really have time to think about it. You're just trying to do what you're there for, and you don't even really think about it. But I remember, you know, being backstage in Tempe, Arizona with the Stones, and you know, there was nobody backstage, but then we went to the same tour backstage at the Coliseum and everybody was there. You go to Hollywood backstage, it's a whole different scene, it's like a big party. But in Tempe, we were sitting on a picnic table and, you know, sitting there talking to Charlie Watts, you know. It's like, and it just seems like, you know, most of the guys I've met have been regular guys. Nobody was like really an asshole or anything. So that would probably freak me out a little bit more than anything. But the fact that these guys were, you know, all doing the same thing. They love guitars. They wanted to geek out on guitars and talk about them. And so it was something I felt that I had to offer. We were kind of meeting on a common footing, you know. No, I smoked a joint with Country Joe McDonald.
Really? And the
Sitting
fish,
at a
or with
table.
no fish?
Huh?
I said, and the fish, or
no fish? Were there.
Yeah.
It was backstage at the San Diego Sports Arena.
Oh, wow.
Country Joe and the Fish and Spirit. And we were sitting at a table backstage in a room. It looked like cafeteria tables. And there were 4 San Diego police officers sitting at the table.
Right.
And Country Joe turned to me, rolled it, lit it, passed it to me, and I'm looking like the cops are sitting there. They didn't even look up. So, okay. And that was back when it was, you know, you go to prison for 10 years.
You're also a great musician, I know that, because I've played with you for many years. But I also know that you played with some pretty interesting people, and one of them is Chuck Berry.
I got a call from my friend Jim Washburn, and Chuck Berry was doing a show in Redondo Beach, like on New Year's Day or the day after. Now, he said he needed a band. Like, he never travels with a band. It's just he shows up with his guitar, and you have to have. He asked for 2 Fender dual Showman reverb amplifiers. You got to have a drummer, a piano player, and a bass player. And Jim said, well, originally he said, well, my band will do it. In his contract said, no, the opening band can't do it. It has to be a separate, discrete band just for him. So Jim said, you want to play bass? And I said, absolutely not. I'd seen the Hail Hail Rock and Roll movie where he punched out Keith Richards, and Bruce Springsteen talks about how terrifying it was to play with Chuck Berry. And,
oh my God,
so
I didn't even know that.
Jim picked the guys, Stephen Hodges, who now plays with Mavis Staples
great.
from the James Harmon Band, and a piano player named Joe Simon, who was well-versed in the Johnny Johnson boogie-woogie thing, and me. So we thought, well, we're going to be prepared. We're going to get together and listen to Chuck Berry records and see what's going on. His records were all in weird keys, like B flat and things like that, because of the piano. Johnny Johnson was a piano player, so a lot of stuff's in B flat. And so we listened to the record and said, wow, he never goes to the 4 on the turnarounds, 5 back to 1, never. So we made little notes about, actually studying his music. So we got there, and we go in the dressing room, and they put him upstairs. So we go upstairs, knock on the door, and he comes in. We introduce ourselves, and Stephen Hodges had a sheet of paper where we'd written down a bunch of his songs. He goes, okay, Chuck, Mr. Berry, what are we going to be playing? And he goes, Chuck Berry songs. He always say, okay, well, what keys Johnny be good in? And he goes, A. And we looked at each other going, we had B flat written down. Okay. So he kind of went through the list, and we did it real quick, and he said, oh, I'm going to rest you guys, so we'll see it on stage. So he starts the song, and we're in the right key. He kind of turns around and looks at us with a look of shock on his face. He'll try to mess up the band.
Yeah.
He'll tell them the wrong key, because that way he doesn't have to pay him. He's got a really weird deal.
This is a free country. Live like you want to live, baby.
The first set, it's standing room only in the place. They lined up outside in the afternoon. The first set he played 20 minutes and then stopped, laid the guitar on the piano and left and went upstairs and took a nap. So I had my book, his first edition autobiography, and I said, would you sign this for me? He said, just leave it there on the table by the door. I said, okay. And we went down, and he had his nap, and his guitar was horrible. It was so out of tune the first set. So I tuned his guitar, stretched the strings. He had the whole string written around the post, wrapped around the post. So I stretched them and cleaned them up, and laid it back in his case. He just laid it in the case on the piano with the strap hanging.
He didn't know that?
He didn't know. So he came back in, and the crowd's going, oh, Chuck, Chuck. And we're playing already on stage. He comes walking out, grabs his guitar, hits a chord, and goes. He cocked his head. I was right behind him, kind of standing there. He turned and looked at me and winked at me.
Really?
And then he hit the chord. He played an hour and a half straight through.
Oh, wow.
Did all cool old stuff like album cuts and things he didn't normally play. And he had a blast, and it was really cool. So I'm glad. Then I went back, and we're still playing. He goes down the hallway, and I'm looking down the hallway. I see the door open into the parking lot. He walks out the door, gets in the car, and drives away. And we're still playing. They're going, Chuck, Chuck. They want an encore,
Done.
Finally, so, Chuck Berry has left the auditorium. It was like kind of
that was it?
He was gone.
Did he sign the book?
Yes, I went upstairs and went, man, he took my book. I went up there and he signed it. He wrote cheers, Chuck Berry, and he drew a little cartoon of like a mouse or...
Oh my God, do you still have it?
I have it.
Now I know why I can't throw you. And I don't try. When we're playing out anywhere, I don't like to use a set list. So now I know that you had a lot of experience in that and a lot of practice with Chuck Berry.
And Dick Dale as well. A friend of mine he'd come to my shop and said, I'm playing rhythm guitar with Dick Dale. I said, oh man, if anything ever happens to the bass player, I'd love to do that gig. That's what my first record I ever bought, Surfer's Choice. And one day he showed up, he called me and he said, hey, the bass player's leaving. What are you doing? This is like right around New Year's, Christmas vacation, 79, I think. He goes, come down to Dick's house Saturday. What should I do? What do you bring your bass? I said, okay. So I went down there, so Dick's wondering, he's cooking breakfast in swimming trunks, just running around. He starts watching a video of them playing the belly up. And he goes, yeah, so see, this is when we're doing this song or that. And he's basically talking, it's like, am I here to audition or what? And I'm just kind of watching, tapping my foot, listening to it. And he goes, okay, well, cool, you're good. I go, well, we didn't get to play. Don't you want to hear me play? He goes, no, I was watching you tap your foot.
Are you
Because you're
kidding?
hired. I never played a note, and he hired me.
Whoa, that's
And
so
he said they only have a few rules. When you're playing, downstrokes only. You got to use a pick. You got to play through my Showman amp that I have, and it has to be a Fender Precision bass and downstrokes only.
Downstrokes, meaning
Downstroke,
all of that.
all downstrokes. He goes, I go for the power, dun 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 dun, on the bass. He goes, and I have the horn players and everybody
Ouch.
playing the same note, and because I like the power. I go, you don't do in harmony like horn lines? He goes, nope, everybody plays the same note. Bass is all downstrokes. No walking lines,
Wow.
nothing. Just dun 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 dun. So I can do that.
Yeah.
So that was it. He lived in the Gillette Mansion at the end of Balboa Island, and it had been a big mansion, and at one point the two brothers got in a feud, the Gillette brothers, and they split the house right down the middle. So there's like a 6-inch gap.
Wow.
It's still there. And he lived in one of them, and with his wife Jeannie. And we used to rehearse, and the tour boat would go by, and they go, and there's the home of Dick Dale, king of the surf guitar. And we'd be rehearsing upstairs. He'd run out on the porch and wave with his guitar and start playing licks, and people would be cheering out on the boat. You know, it was really
Oh my God,
goofy.
that's great.
After every gig, we'd get home at 2 in the morning, and we'd have to unload the van and take it up 3 flights of stairs, all the Showman amps. So I said, Dick,
Oh,
you know,
man.
now that I'm the band leader, why don't you just let me keep... I had a place at my house that was a lockup, like a fortified area in the garage,
Right.
between the shop and the garage. And so I just unload, I could back my car in there and then unload it the next morning and lock everything up.
Yeah.
So his guitar, his saxophone, I had everything at my house all those years. You know. And then we'd get a gig, I'd back my van up there, load it up, drive to the gig. I'd set everything up, and then the rest of the band would show up, and we would do a sound check, and then Dick would turn up when it was time to play.
You were with the Torquays, the surf band, the Torquays, for how long?
I'm trying to think when it was I started. They'd started out in Shawnee, Michigan, Kansas in '64, and then the principals
Surf
moved.
band from
Surf band,
Kansas?
yeah.
Cool.
You know, there was a lot of instrumental music that wasn't surf, like you had the Fireballs from New Mexico.
Yeah.
You had the Tornadoes, there were, Link Ray, Dwayne Eddy. There was guitar instrumental stuff. And when the surf music thing started, it was kind of a West Coast thing. It started in Orange County and the South Bay mostly. And those guys added reverb to it and became surf music with Dick Dale, Eddie and the Showman, and the Bel Airs, that sort of thing. And then those bands, since they only had 1 or 2 songs that were surf, they would play guitar instrumentals. So in Kansas, they listened to Link Ray and Fireballs and that, so they would learn those songs. And then they moved out here and went to Newport Harbor High School and got immersed in the surf culture in '64.
And you have written a lot of songs, good songs. My personal favorite surf song is a song called Twitchin', which Steve wrote. You've also had placement in films, in, what was that one? There was a surf, I think it was an IMAX movie. Was it an IMAX movie?
Ultimate Wave Tahiti. It's a Kelly Slater movie. He's a surf champ,
Yeah.
like a big deal.
Even I know who Kelly Slater is. There's a lot of shit going on right now in the world. And I promised my wife I wouldn't talk politics, but she's not here. Do you have any comment whatsoever, or do you just choose to not comment?
I was thinking when this all started going down, and as every day unfolds and you see the news and what's going on, I thought if I, cleaned out the medicine cabinet, dropped acid, and drank a bottle of whiskey, I could not come up with anything that's just unbelievable. And if I did, they would never buy it. I try to keep lighthearted about it and make jokes about it, but it's frightening.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes I think that if you don't have a reference point or something, if you don't feel like you're being attacked, or if you've never been attacked, then sometimes it's hard to have a reference point. And I'm trying to find a way to take the questions that I know a lot of people that would consider themselves conservatives have, and go, wow, well, I understand that question. We do have problems going on. We need some change, and find out from this extreme side to this extreme side, where do we come together? Where do we find that place? Okay, this is Poe. Oh well, it's all the time we have.
It's a good way to finish it off.